Hi, this is Peter from The Movable Chef. I'm going to make some very traditional Turkish lamb kebabs. And rather than being chunks of lamb on a skewer, these are actually formed out of ground lamb. Think of them, if you will, as like mini meatloafs formed around a skewer and then grilled. This calls for a lot of green vegetables, some pistachios and water, some spices, all ground into a paste, and then mixed with the ground lamb and some fine bulgur wheat. So I will go ahead and start grinding these things up. We start off with pistachios. For 2 pounds of lamb, that's about a cup of pistachios and just about a cup of water, a little bit less. We're going to food process this until it's smooth, You could also do this in a blender if you were pulsing it and being a little careful with it. All right, the pistachios are pretty well ground. We're going to add 9 or 10 cloves of garlic. We're going to roughly chop the green vegetables that are going in. They just have to be fine enough that they can go through the processor just fine. So let's go ahead and add those in. We need about a cup of those 4 scallions, a little less than a cup of flat leaf parsley. Once again, we're just chopping it enough it doesn't really get wrapped around the blades. We don't really need to make it fine because we're going to run it through the food processor. We've got about a half cup of mint. I'm just tearing that off the stems. I'm not even chopping the leaves because they're small enough already. And about a teaspoon of red pepper flakes here. And then I'm just going to coarsely chop a small onion. And then this goes in as well. Now we're going to process this again. All right, that looks like it's finished processing. Here, I have a bowl of ground lamb. Now, if you have a real butcher, ask for it to be finely ground, or you can grind it yourself finely. I also find that if you go to Middle Eastern markets, halal meat markets, they'll do a very fine grind for you. And that's important because it helps everything stick together and clump together when you're forming it around the kebab skewers. If you can't do that, understood, get as fine a grind as you can, and they might be a little bit clumpier, but they should work out okay. Now we're going to add the vegetable mixture into the ground lamb. Use a silicone spatula, make sure you get all of it in there. This is where a lot of the flavor comes from. And the last thing that gets added is bulgur wheat, finely ground bulgur wheat that's been soaked in warm water for 10 minutes and then drained. Think of this like adding breadcrumbs to a meatloaf. It's really there to space it out, bind it together some, stretch the meat, if you will, like in a meatloaf recipe. You could use breadcrumbs if you needed to, if you couldn't find the fine bulgur wheat. It does need to be fine ground. The coarse bulgur or the whole bulgur won't really bind this together. So this just gets mixed together. You want to do this sort of as quickly but completely as possible. You don't want to overhandle the meat, but you also want to make sure it's thoroughly incorporated. So this has all been mixed together now. And the next step is to form the actual kebabs. Like I said, these are like little mini meatloafs that get formed around a skewer. So it helps if your skewers are sort of wide. It gives the meat something to hang on to. And the actual process is to take about a third of a cup, maybe half a cup of the mixture, and just form it around the skewer. And then working it with your hands, extend it until it's about 8 inches long or so. Relatively consistent thickness is good. And then you can put it on a sheet pan and make some indentations with your fingers just to let it give some character as you're grilling it. And then these will go in the refrigerator for about an hour or so until they've firmed up a bit and you can grill them. The chilling the meat will and allowing it to rest will let it be a little bit firmer on the skewer, and you have a better chance of getting it on and off the grill without any sort of catastrophe occurring. So there's another one. Go ahead and put it on the sheet pan, and then just make your indentations on the tops and sides to give it some interest while it's grilling. And we'll just keep doing that until all of the mixture is used up. Let it rest for an hour, and then we'll grill. So for the final step in our kebabs, we're going to get the grill started with a chimney, and I'm using natural lump charcoal. You don't have to. I prefer to use it whenever I can. For kebabs, briquettes would work just fine. And we're going to light this around. And this will take about 5 to 10 minutes to thoroughly light those lump charcoal chunks. And then we can just dump it out and grill our kebabs. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes and flames are shooting out of the top of the chimney, which means it's just about time to dump the coals and get ready to grill our kebabs. The nice thing about the natural lump charcoal is that you can grill on it as soon as you dump it out. You don't have to wait for it to burn off any of the chemical flavors or anything. But that doesn't mean you necessarily want to. I mean, we want this to be hot, but we want the kebabs to take about 15 minutes to cook. So I might let this come down just a little bit in temperature, and close the side vents to about maybe halfway on each side. We'll see how that works. And then of course we want to put the grid on and let that start burning off so we can clean it. That is still pretty hot. Let's use this tool to get the grill set. There we go. Now we'll let this grill come up to temperature. The grid come up to temperature, and then we'll clean it off. All right, our fire's ready, our grill's ready and hot. And I've just taken these kebabs out of the refrigerator. Unlike a lot of meats, you actually don't want to let these warm up a lot before you cook them. Keeping them cold firms the meat up and keeps it on the skewer nicely. And you'll see that these are a lot firmer than they were when I put them in. It's given time for that bulgur wheat to continue to hydrate and stick everything together. And then just being refrigerated has let the fat in the meat get a little bit denser as well. You want to put these on and not really touch them until they're ready to turn, which is after the meat has begun to sear a bit. So we're just going to leave these alone for a few minutes. I don't quite have space for the last one. That's okay. Once I move these around, I'll add it on a little bit later. So we're going to let these sear, and it should take about 15 minutes to do all 4 sides. So just about 4 minutes a side. So this is what you get with live TV. Well, okay, with live YouTube. Well, actually, it's pre-recorded YouTube. This is what you get when I don't have a production assistant. They're sticking a little bit and they're falling off the skewers a bit, but they smell absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to find a way to work this out where I can keep them more or less in one piece and grill all 4 sides. And I'm going to facilitate that with a large spatula. The other thing that probably would have worked really well doing this would have been just putting the skewers across the width of the Smoky Joe and not using the grill at all. I actually probably didn't need the grill in this to do the kebabs. I probably should just would have removed it and grilled them suspended. I was a little concerned about them falling off into the coals, but I actually think the grill has been a little bit more of a problem than an asset in that respect. So these have been on for a bit over 12 minutes. You can see that the skewers are gone at this point. They were more a hindrance than a help. And I'm just turning them sort of like long oblong hamburgers. But that's working out okay, actually. They smell amazing. I think I had a little bit too much moisture in the mix, which is probably why they came off of the skewer the way they did. And so when I write this up for the recipe on the website, I'll probably omit a little bit of the liquid. Aside from that, it looks like they're going to be fantastic tasting kebabs even without the skewer. So I'm going to let these finish up for a few more minutes, and I'll be right back. All right, well, these have been on for a little bit over 15 minutes, and aside from not having a stick down the middle, they look pretty much exactly the way they're supposed to. So I'm going to pull these off the grill, plate them up, and we're going to finish them off in the kitchen. All right, to finish off the lamb kebabs, you just get a little bit of a drizzle of olive oil and a dusting of sumac. If you don't have sumac, although it's widely available at Middle Eastern markets, but if you don't have any available or don't feel like getting any, a squeeze of lemon juice would work great, because sumac is a very citrusy flavor, and the sumac has a little bit more character to it than just a squeeze of lemon juice, but a squeeze of lemon juice would certainly suffice in a pinch. And there we have it. Lamb kebabs with pistachio, and the recipe for this, the ingredients list and the quantities is all available at themovableChef.com. Thanks so much.